So scheduling algorithms, which process has to be selected from the ready queue, which has to be allocated to the CPU, they are various. First of all, first come first serve. There is no problem. The process which has come first will be allocated first, and the PCB of the process is linked onto the tail of the ready queue in the first come first serve. So whenever the CPU is free, it gets the process at the queue's head. Means here is the process, this is the head. So whenever CPU is free, it will get this. This is done, it will get this. This is done, it will get this. So it will be a sequential form, and the average waiting time, as you see here, is not minimum, because there will be a convoy effect. See, just assume that this is the scenario. These three are taking just 1, 2, say 3 burst time, and this is taking say 50 burst time. So the convoy is there. Whenever you are, whenever there is an army convoy going on, or a convoy of some big minister, then all the others people all the residents have to wait. All the bikers, all the the people who are on the roads have to wait. Even if this guy only wants to cross the road, he has to wait for all the time till the convoy passes. This is the convoy effect. When process wait for a big one to get off, this one to get off. So this is we can have a non-preemptive version, but we'll see the non-preemptive, because the process keeps the CPU until it releases it. This is not at all advisable for time sharing system, because at that time you want every process to get some equal amount of time, but this is not possible here. So we'll take an example. These are the processes P1, P2, P3. It requires 24 unit time to complete. This required 3 and this required 3. Because P1 has come, it will be allotted first. It will complete till 24, then P2 will be allocated, and then it will complete for 3. Then P3 will come, it will be allocated sequentially. Now what is happening here is, this P1 is waiting 0 time, but P2 has to wait all along till the P1 complete. This is the convoy effect. Now P2 has to wait till this time, 24. So this is the waiting time. P1 is 0, P2 is 24. Now P3 has to wait for P1 to complete and P2 to complete. So 24 plus 3, that is 27, it has to wait. So 0 plus 24 plus 27 by 3, this is the average waiting time. This is 17. Now suppose the order is changed. Let us change the order. P2 has come first, P3 has come first, and P1 has come. The maximum CPU burst taking time, P1 has come last. P2 will only, because it has just come, and because it has come first, we'll put it in the first in first out. 0 waiting time for P3, 3 waiting time, and for P1 only 3 plus 3, that is P2 and P3 completion, 6 waiting time. So 0 plus 6 plus 3 by 3, this is 3. This is much better. But convoy effect, short process behind long process. Then we have shortest job first scheduling. Now this is quite not very implementable type of scheduling, because this says that if we have these processes, P1, now this is executing, then P2, P3, P4, we will try to find out which of them is having the shortest time to complete. How to find that? This is a difficulty. This is very difficult to know in advance that which of them is going to be completed first. How to anticipate? How to anticipate, right? And if at all the time are same, then we'll apply the first come first service. So this SJF can't be implemented at the level of short-term scheduling, because there is no way to know the length of the CPU burst. How to anticipate? How to find out that who is going to be completed first? But let us try to predict the length of the next CPU burst. There are various ways. So the SJF can be either preemptive or non-preemptive. As we said that for FIFO, first come first serve is non-preemptive. We established that. SJF can be preemptive, it can be non-preemptive. Preemptive and non-preemptive means, preemptive means if a process P1 is running and P2 or P3 comes and this has shorter time than P1, P1 will be taken out. It will be taken out and P2 will be given chance, whichever is less. And this is just knowing that this is the shortest remaining time first, because if the time remaining for P1 is lesser than P2 and P3, P1 will be allowed to complete. Otherwise, P2 will be taken. In non-preemptive SJF, the current place or current process is allowed to finish its CPU burst, then only P2 and P3 will be catered. As we just saw, it is very ideal. So it has a minimum average waiting time for the set of processes. Let us take an example. First of all, this P1 has come. This arrival time is, this is very important, the arrival time. It has arrived at 0 and burst time is 7. So when P1 has come, no one is there. So P1 will be allocated. This is non-preemptive, so it cannot be preemptive. It will go up till 7. After that, because till 7 all has come. See, this P4 has already arrived because it has come at 5. But the P1 has completed till 7, so all have arrived. Now for the next sequence, we will see whichever he is having the less time, or which will be doing or executing in lesser time. P3. So we'll take P3. It will take 1 time. This is done. Now again we'll see which one has to be taken. 4, 4. Which one is less? Because both are same. So we'll go with the first come first serve. So we'll take P2. It will complete for 4. Now all this is complete. This is complete. All are complete. Only P4 is remaining. P4 will be given the chance. So the average waiting time for P1 is 0. P3 is 7. And P2 is, no, not 7. See, P3 has got the execution or the CPU time at 7. But P3 has arrived just at 4. So 7 minus 4. 3 will be the time for P3. P1 is 0. Now how about this P2? P2 has come at 2 and it has got time at 8. So 8 minus 2, that is 6. So this is the time. How about P4? P4 has arrived at 5. Where it was being taken, P4 was taken at 12. So you have to subtract 12 and 7. Right? So you get 12 and this subtraction, because 12 minus 5. So you get what? You get 7. You get 7. So these are all the time, because you have to subtract the arrival time also. So 0 plus 6 plus 3 plus 7 by 4 is 4. This is the average waiting time. Now let us come to the preemptive time. Now P1, because there is no one, so P1 will be given chance. It has completed till 2, but by the time P2 has arrived, now this is having a shorter time than this. What is the remaining? 7 minus 2. So the burst time is 5. Its time is 4. So which will be taken? 4. P2 will be given chance. It will go up to 2. But by the time it has gone for 2 units of time, P3 has come. And it has lesser time. Because 4 minus 2 is 2. And this is 1. So 2 and 1, which is lower? 1. So P3 will be given chance. After that, what will happen? Now because P2 is having a lesser time than others. 4, 5, 2, which is having lesser 2. So P2 will be given chance. Then after that, because now this has a lesser time, 4 and 5. So this will be given chance 4. So you can say that P1 will be taken last because it has the largest time which is remaining. P1 will come here, it will be completed. And I just discussed how to find the waiting time, because we have to find out the waiting time with this is the average waiting time. This will be this, which is equal to 3. And we see this is better. SJF preemptive is better. How to determine the length of the next CPU burst? You can estimate it. There are various things, like this can be done using the length of previous CPU burst. Like this was the previous CPU burst. You can use the exponential averaging like this, and you can guess the time. Okay, if it has taken this much time previously, what it is going to take in the next. This is how it can be implemented. Now we have priority scheduling also. We can have preemptive as well as non-preemptive priority scheduling. In the preemptive priority scheduling, the CPU is preempted if the priority of the newly arrived process is higher than the priority of the current one. But in non-preemptive priority scheduling, the new process is put at the head of the ready queue, right? Then we have other options also. This equal priority, if the equal priority are there, they are rescheduled in the first come first serve order. So how these priorities are defined? It can be internal based on time limits, memory requirements, and number of files. And externally means it can be some other, it can be what is the importance of process, what is the political factor of the situation of the computer. All these can be taken. But there is a problem. There is a problem of starvation. In priority, what happens? if some priority, if these two processes are coming and they have higher priority, the processes with lower priority will never get a chance. So they will be starved. They will not get food to eat. They'll be starved. So what is the best idea? Whenever some other processes are coming, just increase the priority of these two lower priority processes. Then this is the solution, which is called the aging. So this is technically, or you can say, the increasing the priority or the number, that is some number, the priority of the processes that are waiting in the system for a long time, so they will never be starved. Then we have round robin scheduling. So this is specially designed for time sharing systems. This is just like first comes first serve, but it involves the preemption. So there is a time quantum involved. This time quantum is very important. The ready queue is treated as a circular queue. So this will be circular queue. First this will be taken for some time, then it will be kept back in the tail. Then this will be taken, kept it back in the tail, and likewise. So the ready queue is treated as a circular queue, and CPU scheduler goes around this queue, ready queue, allocating the CPU to each process for some time interval. This is one time quantum, and this time quantum can be in anywhere between these. So the ready queue is kept as a FIFO queue of processes. Now what CPU scheduler does, it will select the first process from the ready queue, set a timer to interrupt after one time quantum, and then it will dispatch the process. So what can happen? It may happen that the process may have burst time which is less than this one time quantum, so it will release voluntarily. But if the process has CPU which is CPU burst which is longer than one quantum, then it will go off. It will cause an interrupt to the operating system. Then this process will be put in the back, that is tail of the ready queue, and other will be taken. If there are n process in the ready queue and the time quantum you have decided is q, then each process gets how much CPU time, that will be 1 by n. 1 by n of the CPU time in chunks of at most q time units at once. So no process waits more than n minus 1 into q times. This is time unit. So the RR performance, round robin performance, heavily depends on one thing, that is the size of the quantum you have taken. If you have taken time quantum as very large, it is simply equal to first in first out, because all will be completed before the time or quantum time will elapse. But if you have taken q as small, time quantum as small, there will be various switching. There will be context switch, and that will be high overhead. So we have to reduce this context switch time, so that in order to reduce this context switch time, we will take the quantum time as good as possible. So just take an example of round robin. The time quantum is 20. So what will happen? P1 has come 53. P1 will be given chance. P1 has completed minus 20. After it will be preempted. So the time remaining is 33. Okay, now P2 will be given chance 17 minus 20 negative, so it will be completed. Let me put a tick. Now again P3 will come. This is simply first come first serve with the preemptive preemption, and preemption is one quantum. The quantum time is 20 unit time. Now P3 has come 68 minus 20 48. Now 24 minus 20, now 4. So all these are done. Again P1 will come 33 minus 20 13. It is already completed, so this will never come. 48 minus 20 28. 4 minus 20 negative, so it is completed. Now next, all these are done. Now again P1 will come. These are all done. Sorry, till here P1 will come 13. It will complete, because 13 minus 20 negative, it has completed. 28 will come. 28 minus 20, 8 is left. Again P3 will come 8 units. See, 8 units. So it has high average turnaround than SJF, but the response is better. So we want the time quantum should be such that the context switching is as less as possible. We'll see the scenario where you increase or decrease the quantum. See, if the process time is 10 and the quantum you have taken is 12, the context switch is 0. There will be no context switch. There will be no context switching in the processes. But the thing is that the time is process this quantum is very huge. I'm just taking an example. But if you take it as a quantum as 6, context switch will be only 1. Taking an example. But if you take quantum as very small, the context switch is very high. This we cannot accept. So turnaround time also depends on the size of the quantum, as we just saw. These are the processes, these are coming, these are the times. And when we take 1 quantum, it will be like this. Say 4 quantum, it will be like this. So we want the average time or turnaround time to be as least as possible. So we'll go along with either 6 or 7 time quantum. This is the time quantum.